Welcome everyone to this edition of Talented Universe. We've got people looking at us. That's kind of scary right at the beginning before we get our act together. But today is the 10th of June, 2025. And I would first like to introduce my co-host, and she's going to introduce our guest today. Marcia, how are you doing this wonderful day on the East Coast for us?
Yes, I'm on the East Coast. I'm in Florida, sunny Florida. And I am thrilled to welcome Aaron Oberst, who is a writer, producer, and in a stack of verticals that keeps on growing higher and higher. Aaron, how are you today?
Oh, I am great. I actually just wrapped another project late last night, so I'm rolling on like 4 hours of sleep.
Well, that's thrilling. We'll have our way with you then today.
Yeah, please do. It'll be great.
That means some questions that you wouldn't normally answer, you won't even think about it.
Yeah, maybe. Just be like, yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marcia. I interrupted you.
Well, you do have a stack of verticals. I didn't count how many you have. How did you get started and learn about this still new format?
Well, they started a couple years ago here in LA. They started being posted and stuff. And I, at the time, and even now, I just cast a wide net for acting work, just because that's what I want to do. And so I booked my very first one in November of 2023. It was a werewolf one. And it was with, what's crazy is the people it was with. It was with Keira Wisely. She was the lead. Casey Esser and Seth Adine. And then me. It was wild. It was very fun. But I realized that as far as an actor standpoint, there's like certain technical things with like how small the frame is, and you have to like do things within a certain like place. But other than that, I don't know the difference. So it's just doing the thing, and I just love acting. So I did my first one, and then I was more like a villain in that one, and then from there they just kind of snowballed. I did a lot of supporting stuff last year, like day player, villains, and then I got my first lead last June, and then it just kind of all snowballs. Like one thing happens, and then after a little bit of time, things just start hitting a little bit more. And maybe like last September was when things like started really ramping up for me, which was awesome. Very excited about it.
Aaron, for people that we do have some people that come on, and when we start talking about verticals, they don't know what we're talking about. If someone came up to you and you said, "Well, I'm in a vertical drama," and you had to tell them, explain a vertical drama. What is it? Well, how would you do it? Everyone we ask has a different take on it.
Okay.
How would you explain it to someone that has no idea what you're talking about?
I would explain a vertical drama as a feature-length soap opera that is very fast-paced and has episodes that are 1 to 2 minutes long that'll just keep you engaged. That's meant to just give you a cliffhanger and go to the next one. And each episode, you don't necessarily, like, the way that they're written is like you could kind of jump in at any point and pretty much get what's going on. And they're fun. They're fun. They're over dramatic. They're a great time to shoot. Lots of laughs all around.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Marcia.
About the shooting of a vertical drama. When you're shooting, what we see are the little episodes. How do they break it up for you as far as filming?
For us, it kind of depends on which app it is, but for the most part, like let's say there's a long scene that's like would be, if you didn't have the episode breaks in there, would be like 5 to 10 minutes long. But throughout it, there's certain very dramatic beats and there will be an episode break. For us, basically, we would do the whole scene. But for those episode breaks, everybody would kind of have this really dramatic pause for a certain amount of time that we're, told about beforehand. And then there will be like a second action called, and then we'll just like keep going.
Okay.
Or sometimes if it's like, this is my favorite, because we do these so fast, we don't get a ton of rehearsal time. So if there's a scene with a bunch of people, like it's like a banquet scene or a conference room scene or something like that, we shoot it pretty much by episode. It'll be like you go up to a certain point where it just makes sense, and then you have to stop everything and reset everything, because now we have like 10 other people we got to worry about in the room. And especially for the actors, because we don't get rehearsals necessarily, it's like, at least with me, I know all my lines, but if you got, you know, 10 other people in the scene, I just don't know when those lines happen, because we haven't really like rehearsed it. So sometimes we'll block shoot it, or we'll shoot like maybe one page at a time or one episode at a time, which really helps us out, because like I said, it's, I know my lines, but I don't know when they happen. So.
Sorry, Mike, you go ahead, Michael.
No, go ahead, do one more. I'm doing something.
Well, so that when you're finished with your whole episode, your whole the whole vertical drama, do you know what's going to happen beforehand? Do they give you the entire script?
Yeah, we get the whole script. Sometimes it's weeks before, so we get time. Sometimes it's days before. So we get the whole script. We know what's going down. And usually the way these shoot, because we're very fast paced. Like we shoot a lot of pages every day, and we get those pages the night before, and then that's when all the prep happens. At least for me, I get the pages the night before, do all my prep, ready for the next day, and that's just kind of how it rolls on. So we know everything that's happening and that's going to happen, but even while we're shooting it, you forget things. Like sometimes we get the script so close to shooting that it's like, okay, we read it, but it's like barely, it's in there kinda. And then I'll get the sides the night before and just be like, oh, I completely forgot about this scene. Okay, cool.
Let's go into the chat room. I've got a few questions in the chat room. Justin asked, on a scale of 1 to 10, being 1 not at all, 10 being you are that person, how much do you relate to Lawrence?
Ooh, relate to Lawrence? I would say like an 8 or 9, maybe even a 10, because I feel like the people that I play, I have to find them and relate to them on a full scale as much as humanly possible. However, am I like Lawrence in my normal life? No. No.
Probably a good thing.
I like comedy a lot. So like I like to laugh a lot. I'm pretty lighthearted. I'm a super optimist, and I'm not as broody, as intense usually in my life. But you know, I guess it could happen.
Well, for
So I'd
those
say
who
maybe
don't
like,
who know who Lawrence is, who is Lawrence?
Lawrence is Lawrence Calhoun, Professor Calhoun from Surrender to My Professor. And
one of the new ones.
Yeah, he's he's an English literature professor who is very intense. We'll say that, intense and broody and conflicted, but a good guy down beneath for sure. Just wants to help. But,
yeah, I watched some of that yesterday.
Yeah, and this is I'm trying to read the screen name, Los Lane. I'm sorry if I butchered that, but they're asking, you are a writer. What genre or type do you write?
I've kind of bounced all around. I stick to screenplays specifically, and I love sci-fi. So my mind just goes to like fantasy sci-fi stuff.
You're in the right place then.
Yeah. So so like when the pandemic hit, I was bartending at the time and still like trying to act, but everything shut down and I didn't have anything to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to write full time. So I just did that. And in a year, I wrote like 8 features. And I'm not saying they're all good, but I just like, you know, I just went to town on it. And I made this massive sci-fi universe that's so much fun. I love it so much. I don't know if it'll ever see the light of day, but I love writing. I love writing screenplays, specifically sci-fi. I like building universes because it's interesting. You can build out things in the future and in the past, and build out these characters that are just so fantastical and connected in interesting ways.
If you can't sell it as a spring play, that's one of those mornings. Screenplay, would you change it to a book?
I would, but I'm not. I don't. My brain at this moment hasn't worked that way for like writing a novel. Because like in my head, when I'm writing a screenplay, like I'm watching the movie in my head.
Okay.
Whereas like with a novel, I feel like I've tried to just write freeform, and I just trail off into like who knows what I'm talking about now.
Okay.
It's kind of wild.
No, I kind of can relate to that. But I would like to recognize people that have liked us on Facebook, Bobby Nash and Abigail Dewinchik. I think that's one of our Serbian friends. I think, I'm not 100% positive, but, and this is, Michaela Bergman says hello from Germany.
Hello from Los Angeles.
So that is cool. So are you in Los Angeles, or I wasn't sure if you were in Central Time Zone or you were in LA?
I am. I'm in Los Angeles.
You are in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I've lived in Southern California pretty much my whole life. Grew up here.
Oh, okay. I get so mixed up with people. That's probably why you got so confused when I told you what time it was.
It is.
I was thinking it was Central, and it's like, why did I think it was Central?
I'm glad you asked, because I would have not been here.
Yeah, well, that's the important thing. So. And it's like we just do the best we can sometimes. But so far in your adventures, in verticals, in writing, in everything else you've done, what has been one of your favorite moments that you remember?
My favorite.
Or do you have moments of remember? It was life-changing, earth-shattering, or you just were having a really good time?
That's a great question. The first
Or do you have to think about that for a while?
Yeah, just for a second. But the first, like, just off the top of my head, first thing that happens, or first thing that comes to mind was I was shooting Daddy December, which was like a Christmas Magic Mike vertical. Very fun to shoot. But we had this one day where the scenes that I had that day encompassed like a large range of the emotional spectrum. So like we had scenes where it's like we were in love and we're having like an intimate scene, and then later that day we had a breakup scene, and we had another scene where I got like super, super angry and like threw this table. And things happen throughout the day to where like we usually do 12-hour days. This day, and like specifically, there were a number of hiccups that kept happening. So we actually ended up doing like a 14 or 15-hour day. And it started at 6 a.m. and I just lived this entire day, go into overtime, leave overtime. And as soon as we wrapped, we were right near the LA River, and somebody like just down the way just started shooting off these massive fireworks. And so I lived. So this day in particular was like one of the most all-encompassing days that I've had in my entire life. Because it's like in my whole life, I wouldn't necessarily live all those kinds of emotional moments in one day, but I did on this day. And then the day ended in fireworks. And it was like, this is amazing. It was like, I was so tired. I was so drained. I was so spent. Like I had been up, like super happy. I'd been rageful. And then I had like cried on this breakup scene. And now there's fireworks. And I was like, dude, this is probably the most all-encompassing best day that I've literally ever lived. Cool. And it was on a vertical. It's crazy.
Was this the last day of filming the vertical or no?
No, this was like mid time through. Yeah, I think we were on the last week. We were on the tail end. I think it was like day 7 or 8, probably of a 10-day shoot. And we just, yeah, like we had to add scenes that we'd missed the day before, and things just kept happening. And it was great. It was great.
And did you can you think of any other, or is that's the biggie?
That's the big one. Let's see. Favorite moments. trying to think of moments like in these shows that I absolutely loved. There's I did this hockey one called it was called Pucked and Pregnant, which I thought great title, you guys. That wasn't the title when we signed on, then they changed it. And I was like, okay.
But did they take billionaire out?
Yeah, but there was this one. So I learned I could ice skate before this vertical. Like in the sense that like I could put skates on and I could go onto an ice rink and I could just not fall down, but I couldn't do anything fancy, right? And so I got cast in this thing and I had a week and I was like, all right. And so every day, sometimes twice a day, I went ice skating and I got a coach. And so I learned how to do like a hockey stop. I learned how to ice skate. I learned how to do all this stuff and it was great. And so one of my favorite moments is we had a day, it was like, we had these 2 days where we were on the ice rink all day. And it was like an 8-hour day. And dude, they used my skating footage. I was so happy about it. Like I got checked into the boards. I checked this other dude in the boards. I was like doing this stuff. It was, and we had a stunt double and they got footage of him doing things. But I remember what I did in the takes that they had me do it. And they used my footage, dude. I was so happy about it. Because it was like for me, it was like in that moment, it was like, dude, I just learned how to do this. So like I can do this with more things.
So you didn't end up on the cutting room floor, so you were happy.
Yeah, I was so happy. And I also found out too through that vertical that ice skating's really, really fun.
Oh.
So now do you ice skate more?
You
do? Really?
Yeah, I have to get myself some new skates, but like I love it, man. I'd ice skate anytime. I'd play hockey anytime.
I remember the last scene of that vertical. You had the 2 little kids.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was fun. Those little kids were so sweet. Rebecca was great to work with. She was very, very sweet. And that villain Elisha, we're actually really good friends now. Like we hang out from time to time.
So that sounds like you have made some friends that you didn't know before since you started the verticals.
Tons. This ecosystem is full of wonderful people, which is refreshing to say the least. Because we're all in this space that's very it's very new for one. It's all soap operas, it's all dramatic, it's all romantic, you know, like I'll see posts with but it's like it'll be a post of a bunch of co-stars that I've worked with. I'm like, well, that's interesting. Like that's interesting just to see in general. But everybody's so kind. And what's interesting is like me and the other guys, we don't necessarily like work with each other, but we all work with the same girls. And so we all kind of know each other in a sense. And it's like the connective tissue is just this like thread of, I don't know how to describe it. It's like kindness and love, but it's just like a lot of people that know what it is. And there's just this like small ecosystem and community of friends that are just like, we get it. We can talk. We understand. Like you feel heard and you feel like you belong pretty quick, which is really nice.
Okay, here's a couple more from the chat room. I missed these. I'm sorry, people. Aaron, I think your acting is great and authentic. This is from Michaela, who's from Germany. She said before, what kind of role would be a real challenge for you? One that you'd be interested in?
Interesting. Well, first off, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. At the beginning, the roles that were really challenging for me were the ones that you've seen me in verticals. Because for the longest time, I was auditioning for them, and I was like, dude, what do they want? I don't understand. So it took me a second. But roles that would be difficult for me would probably be the ones that are closer to things that I have experienced in my own life, or things that I'd have to portray that people in my own life have lived. So like, I grew up, I was raised by my dad, so single dad. And my mom was just a very free spirit. And she you know, developed a number of mental health issues throughout her life. And so there's certain things like bipolar and like borderline personality disorder. There's like certain things that if I were to jump into those and portray those, it's twofold. One, I feel like I would be feeling my mom, which would make it like would throw like this whole other emotional aspect to everything. Which honestly, what's odd is like she passed away a few years ago, and I feel her on set a lot. It's like kind of it's very interesting. But like if I were to play things like in that sense, just as an example, like things that she went through, or things that she had, or a character that had her like idiosyncrasies in that sense, like from those like mental health issues, that is one, it would be a connection to my mom that's like pretty close to the heart. But then also certain things like that, they're kind of like in your blood. And so jumping into something like that for me also would be a little bit daunting. And I'm not sure if challenging is the right word. I would say scary would be probably the right word, because it's like, okay, I'm jumping into something that like somebody very close to me actually had issues with. So I just feel like it would be, I would have to jump into it delicately, and I would have to be like, I would genuinely be a little bit scared of it at the beginning and see like how to navigate this while also like protecting myself and keeping myself okay throughout the process. That makes sense.
That does make sense. Then Edward asks, did you have a plan B if you weren't going to be an actor?
Acting is plan like F or something. Or
oh, really? Well, what was plan A then?
No, so so first off, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pro baseball player. And when I was 16, I was throwing like 90 miles an hour. I was very, very good. And then I wound up getting hurt. And so I had no, like when I was 18, like that whole dream was gone. And so it took me a long time to figure it out. I mean, I did a bunch of different stuff. I finally landed on being a physics major later. Like this is like 10 years later, because I went to school, like I took a break and then I went back to school when I was 25. And so I was a physics major. And one day, I mean, I was in upper echelons of physics classes and math classes and doing equations that took me like an hour to finish. And then I got it wrong. Like, dude, come on. So I'm in these classes. I'm in a probability theory class, which was just so difficult, and differential equations, which was also very difficult. And I was in that semester and I was very, very depressed, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was in the gym and I was doing push-ups on one of those medicine balls. And I had this thought that was like, what should I even do with my life? Like, I thought I wanted to do physics. I thought I wanted to do science, but I don't. I really don't. And I don't know if I want to do academics, because at first I thought like, well, cool. Like, I love studying. I think there's a lot of things that are interesting to me about academics, and I haven't been able to find anything that I just love to do or that jumps out at me. And so in this moment, I was like, dude, the answer's right under your nose. Like, that was the sense that I got, like, in this moment that I was having. And I looked down, like I just literally was like, oh, it's right under my nose. So I looked down, and this medicine ball that I was using, my hands were covering up parts of the word. So all it said in the middle was act. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, I've always loved film. I've always loved acting. If you would have asked me literally at any point in my life what the coolest job in the world is, I would have said it's being an actor. And the main reason for me for that is because of pretty much exactly what I was saying about skating, is like, I want to take on a role that said person has a skill that I don't necessarily have. And I would love to have the time and space to dedicate myself to learning it, and then getting this whole new set of skills from a whole new character that I am and was. And so that's what drew me to it. But yeah, acting is I found it in the sense that like there's no plan B for me on this, because it took me a while to figure out that this was what I wanted. I was planning on doing a number of different things. I mean, I went to Bible school. When I went to school, I was going to be biology, then it was chemistry, then it was math, then it was physics, and then I was like, well, maybe I should do psychology, and then I just dropped out and did acting.
Explored a lot, so
yeah, and I was very fortunate too, because in college, while I was doing my physics major, those classes are very specific in that, like, and there's usually only one of them, and I worked my way through college, so I was working full time too. I was bartending full time. So sometimes you just like, it just wouldn't work. I just could not take this class at this time because just, you know, I got to live my life. And so I would have to fill it out with electives or something to get financial aid and still be going full time. And so one semester I took 3 acting classes because that was all I could get to fill out my schedule. And that was probably the catalyst for me, was that one was like, oh, I like this. This is cool. And then it just kept happening from there. But between that moment, which was in 2016, and now we got 9 years of work. So it's not like an instant thing. There's definitely everybody's path is totally different. And it's so, when you're standing at the start of it and looking, it's literally like just blackness. And you know that you have to take this leap. And when you land, you're still going to be on something, but you just can't see it. It's so interesting. It's like you're skipping rocks on a river, but it's so dark that you can't see the next one. But as soon as you jump, you're on it. Like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing.
Okay, one more question from the chat room, and then it's Marsha. Okay, Marsha. What has it been like working with Tess Amelia? Because you two seem so natural with each other, like I'm eavesdropping on a private conversation.
Well, that's great to hear. Tess and I are great friends. Tess is a huge advocate in the space for, I mean, really all of us, but especially for all the female leads, which is interesting because she's done the steamier versions of a lot of these verticals for sure, and so have I. But she specifically is just she's a very kind person, very easy to work with. And she loves to make fun of you. So like, so me, I grew up playing sports. So I played baseball, basketball, football. I ran track. All my friends were athletes. So like, even when we weren't competitively playing in school or on a club team, we would be at the beach playing volleyball, or we'd be playing golf. Like I played most things. And in that setting, like we all just razz each other all day long, just like make fun of each other. It's like the most normal thing. Like my group of friends, we would just, anytime somebody did something stupid, like they would just get reamed, and it was great because it's just a lot of laughs all around. And so with Tess, for me personally, like I could not, if she was around, I could not let her catch me looking in a mirror in any way, in any possible way, or she would just be like, she'd just ream me, dude. Be like, you are such a diva. I'd be like, no, dude, I was just checking. She's great, dude. She's so fun. But I personally, I like working with her was, I feel like, I hope that it felt that way, mostly because of how normal and connected we were, like in between takes, in the sense of like, dude, we just had a lot of fun. Like she would just make fun of me, we would laugh, we would joke around. One thing that I love about these vertical sets, and you know, maybe it's me, but all my co-stars are great people, but like we have a lot of fun. Like it's a lot of drama on screen, but in between, dude, I am laughing like crazy. It's great. And when you have that kind of like no pressure, light connection with somebody, just like an actual friendship, I feel like it comes through when you're working together as these other characters, because you feel,
absolutely, yeah,
you feel safer with each other, you feel more connected with each other, you feel like you can take risks, you feel like you can follow your instincts more, which is great. And I know, at least, you know, I don't know, like I'm not in Tess's head, but from working with her and knowing myself, like a lot of my work is like in the moment instinctual stuff. Like as we're rehearsing, like I start finding things. Because you go in prepared, like I know my lines, I know what's supposed to happen in the scene, but a lot of times we get into it and what's written on the page and the location that we're at is a little bit different. So we have to kind of adapt things for like where we are, what the setting is. And in those senses, like in those instances, you come up with new things that weren't necessarily on the page. And you can only really do that in a safe space when you trust the other people and you can trust your own instincts and not feel like you're being judged really hardcore. And for me, oddly enough, when somebody's making fun of me a ton, we're having like a good time, that's how it feels. And Tess, like I felt like we both kind of created that space for each other and it just made it, I don't know, more connected. I think, I hope.
Okay, Marsha.
Well, I wanted to go back to your Daddy December role. For those who haven't seen it, that's it's, and you mentioned it's kind of a Magic Mike type role, and we know you're an athlete. We know you can move a lot. However, were the movements, were the dancing, was that something you were familiar with or had to learn, like the hockey? We want to know.
That was so that was, I saw the breakdown and I was like, oh, this would be interesting. And it was like, you know, this male stripper Magic Mike Hallmark movie like situation. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And then on the breakdown, they were like, you don't necessarily need to know how to dance. Like we'll work it out. And I was like, all right, sweet. And so I submit, I audition, I get the role. And I'm like, all right, well, they're saying I don't need to know how to dance, but I'm reading this script and like, I need to know some stuff. So, and like me, the way that I am, I like to full send. So like I was saying earlier, like I want to full dive into whatever that skill is. And then also when it comes to certain scenes, it's like, I want to make them my own to the point where like, I can express who I feel the character is without being bound to not having the skill set of that character, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I watched a lot of YouTube. Like my algorithm was messed up for a bit. Like, I was just getting male stripper videos for a second, dude. Like, and I would watch like the tutorial ones, which were fun, and like I'd follow along, and then I'd watch like a bunch of Magic Mike clips. I watched both Magic Mikes twice each. And like I found music that I like, playlists and music that I enjoyed, that like when I was listening to it, it made me want to move, so that I was constantly like in this little bit of a like dancey feel. And then yeah, from there I just, you know, I prepped as much as I could and then just full sent and hoped for the best. Like that was pretty much where it was.
Well, I watched it. It paid off. Good job.
Sweet. Thanks.
On a different subject.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Michaela asks, what is your favorite food? And are you a cook, or I'm assuming, or would you like to learn how to cook and do it more often?
My favorite food is, we'll go genre. I could eat sushi at any point, any day. I would eat it all the time. If you had some right now, I'd scarf it all down. I go to this all-you-can-eat sushi spot that I eat so much that like I'm usually good for a month. Like that's just like, dude, I can't even think about sushi anymore. And as far as cooking goes, I don't cook sushi. That's probably why I love it so much, because it's not something that I would make, and it just tastes. I love the flavor, texture, all of it. But growing up, I grew up with my dad and then my grandma, and my grandma was just a cook's cook. I mean, she was one of those old school ladies. Like she grew up on a farm in Canada. Like she would wake up and just start working. It was, I mean, it's such, now that I'm looking back on it as an adult, it's like, dude, she was an anomaly and a unicorn in the world. But she woke up, she cooked like all day, and she was an amazing cook. Everything that she made was just insanely good. And so I learned a lot from her. And then when I moved out, I just decided that I wanted to be able to cook. I just wanted, like, I want to be able to do this. And so I've been cooking for a long time. I'm really good at it. I'm not as good as my cousin. I got a cousin who is a legit chef, went to the CIA in New York. He's very, very good at it. My family growing up, my grandfather owned these 1950s diners in LA called Dupars. So I grew up kind of like with food and like cooking all around. My whole family is like, we all gather around food. Like that's what we do. And so I still cook. I mean, I cook all the time. I'm a better cook than my wife. I'm not gonna lie. It's hilarious. And she knows it. It's so funny. It's so funny. She's an amazing cook, but it's great that like when I'm home, I get to cook and then I get to make like really good fun food. And I make a bunch of random stuff. I like to make sauces and I don't know. I just do weird things.
Okay, this is because we're going to be probably shutting down in about 5 minutes unless we get a lot more questions. But Edward asks, what's more fun to play, villain or protagonist?
Oh, it depends. I've played some protagonists that were not fun at all. And I've played some villains that were a great time. I actually just shot a new reel short. I was in Montreal about a month and a half ago. And I don't know if y'all know who Sarah Maliski is, but she plays the villain often. But this one that we shot, she was the lead and I was the villain. So I was the lead guy and she was the lead female and I was her villain. And that was so much fun because the arc is like this revenge arc for her. So she's the lead protagonist, but also doing some stuff to mess with me. So it like, we both just got to go to town on like these slight villainous vibes. I like playing the villain because the character, I can be a little bit unhinged, but I would say the protagonist for the most part is more fun. Because sometimes the villains, like if you do villains over and over again, like in a row, they kind of start to wear on you a little bit. Whereas I mean, I feel like I could just roll into a protagonist and just keep rolling into one because they're, you don't have to go into quite of a crazy headspace to do it. Because a lot of these villains are just straight up unhinged. Like,
unless the villain was a dancer too.
Right, but yeah, right. But there's like sometimes it's just like, dude, you just hate your brother, man. Like, what did he do to you? Like, like it's bad. You're trying to stab him. Like, this is escalating quickly.
Or throw him out the window while you're stabbing him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, to get into another side of Aaron, I saw that in your writing that you have written things like haiku.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I read one particularly was about water. Do you remember that one?
Maybe. I might. I love poetry.
Well, I have it because I copied it down. So
love it. I love it. Yeah,
like
I mean,
water.
I've written a bunch of random stuff.
Yeah.
But I love poetry. I've loved poetry since I was a teenager. I got hooked with Edgar Allan Poe, and then Lord Byron and some other really, really cool stuff. And even now, I just like with Lawrence. So for Surrender to My Professor specifically, I got very into poetry because I decided to make the choice that he was an English professor that specialized specifically in poetry.
Okay. Yes.
And mainly because I think poetry is one of those things where like we all love stories and stories hit us emotionally for sure. But poetry has this way about it where in such a short span of time, not only can you feel the writer, but you can feel the emotions coming off the page. And to me, I feel like that is something that's just so unique and so so special. And I love poetry. Haiku, like every once in a while I'll just say something in a haiku and be like, oh, that was a haiku. Nice.
It just comes out naturally.
Well, not all the time, but every once in a while I'll be like, wait, yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I would like to comment on my observation of your acting that I've come across is that you're one of those rare people who acts from, I can feel, no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing something funny or you're dancing, that it's comes from your heart and that you've worked at it. Let me put it that way, and it becomes real for me when it's real for you. And that matters, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate you saying that, because that is the goal. That's the goal for me. Like that's genuinely the reason that I do this. I mean, yeah, sure, it's fun acting, everything I said, learning skills, all that kind of stuff, but for me, I want people to connect on an emotional level, so that I grew up watching TV. I grew up watching TV and film, and I have siblings, but they're all half from different dads. I grew up pretty much an only child, so I was alone a lot. And there's nothing like watching TV and film when it makes you feel like you belong. It makes you feel like you're heard, like you're not alone, like your circumstances aren't, and the way you feel isn't unique to you only. You're part of the human race. I think that's the goal for me with all of this. So it makes me so happy to hear you say that, because that's all I want, really.
Cool. And then you're a baseball fan, so I want to know, do you have an MLB team that I know you're out in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I've been
New York.
Yeah, so for me, because I played all the sports, I don't necessarily follow them.
Okay.
And I've gotten into other things now. So like now I surf, I do MMA, like I do other things. But
okay.
I grew up right in the middle of the Angels and the Dodgers, and I used to go to either game. So like it was, my dad also loved baseball. He was my coach growing up. So if it was like, hey, we should go to a baseball game tonight, we'd find out who was playing. And so I've never really been like a stark, like I'm a Dodger fan only, or like I'm only an Angel fan, but those are my two teams for sure. And I remember I was going to California Angel games. Now they're the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. It annoys me so much because Anaheim's in Orange County, you guys. Come on.
Hello.
What are we doing? There was nothing wrong with the name before, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Angels of Anaheim, totally fine. No
So,
worries.
but if I was to say Ohtani, you would know who that was.
Oh, 100%. He's the man. I actually, I just met a dude that plays his body double in a lot of ads and stuff the other day.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Ohtani's the man, dude.
He's incredible.
He's so great. He's so great.
But go Mets. Okay. I'm done.
Are you a Mets fan?
Yes.
I love that so much.
She is.
That's so great. It's so interesting because like I said, I grew up with both, so I don't care really. I like both of them. But it's so interesting to meet people from New York that are just one or the other, dude. They're like, nah.
It's true.
Nah.
You got to make your choice.
You got to do it. Oh, that's great.
Oh, man. Marsha, do you have any closing remarks for Aaron?
That was it.
That was it. Yeah. You bring up the Mets. I know. Then that's usually your end.
Yeah, I had to do it.
Well, she's so excited. We've got a couple of New York-based actors coming on in the next week, and I told her, and I could just hear her under her breath go, yes, 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 yes. So, Aaron, I would just like to say, and on behalf of Marsha too, thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
We'd love to have you again. If you'd like to round up our co-star that you've done with and you'd like to be on the show with them, that would be great too.
Oh, sure.
And Justin's throwing out all these little baseball things too.
Yes.
So, is that, and stick with this when we go off air. I want to ask you something off air. I don't want to throw it out there with all the people to listen to. Sometimes I don't like that happening. So, but anyway, thank you for coming. Everyone, please like, follow, subscribe, all the same. Oh, here's another one. I have to show this up. This is for Marcia.
Let's go, Mets. Let's go, Mets.
Yes, there we go. So on that note, see everyone later.
Thank you, Aaron.
We've got more coming up. Check our webpage. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.